I'm happy to offer him that ability so that a language barrier will not be an obstacle in that situation. And hopefully this will happen. This is a gentleman like that. And I'll have to underline that it kind of makes me feel a little proud that the Italian is being very gentlemanly, and he has received a lot of attacks from people that don't believe. And I personally don't think there are shafts out there under there. I'm not convinced, but I'm open to the possibility that maybe there is something down there, and I would really love to see them dig. Also because the other night during live stream, because as you know, I stream Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. Central, and yesterday we were streaming, and at one point I had this connection. I noticed one thing, because whenever we think about this idea dig, you think, well, yeah, Metatron, but they can't put up an entire dig situation, like with how much do they need to dig? 648 meters? Not going to happen. It's going to cost a lot. But then I realized one thing, and that's something I want to ask him directly for confirmation. But I thought of this, guys. So let's be real. These supposed tubes, shafts, they say, are used to support the structure of the pyramid. I'll thank you so much, Lord Ra, for gifting the 5 membership, and welcome, guys, welcome. Yeah, I told you that people are awesome. You're great, Lord. I love your name. So these are used to support the weight of the pyramid. What does that tell you? And that's why I want to ask him. Well, in order to do that, they need to reach the pyramids. You don't need to see if this is there. You don't need to dig 648 meters under the ground. You need to dig 30 centimeters, like 1 meter, nothing. You just need to, because they are touching the pyramid. How are they going to support it? Unless they mean that they support the actual, because the way I understand it is that these go through the bedrock, because I doubt that, how are they going to place them otherwise, the ancient Egyptians? Are they going to go underneath the bedrock without? No, they touch the pyramid. So this would be the easiest digging in history, and you don't need it. If you dig for like a little bit, dig a little bit, and then you start seeing a shaft that is empty inside, with spirals of glass pulsating, made of an alloy that it's alien. I mean, yes, then I think it's worth it. But if there is nothing, you can shut this entire thing up. And you don't need to dig. I was wrong when I thought about it that way. Oh my gosh, they're never going to dig to 648 meters. They don't need to. Because by their own speculation, these should be in contact with the pyramid. So there is that. You see these guys, this is the shafts. The shaft. This is the pyramid, you see? These 2 lines here, like this is the pyramid, and they reach here. In fact, I don't know how this one goes even higher. I don't know. I don't understand this stuff. But look, it's right here. So just dig a little bit and see if there is something. To me, but I want to ask him. What do you think? Do they touch? Like, I want to ask him. Because it would be great. If he says yes, then that's a different discussion we're having at that point. Wouldn't you agree? Unless I'm misunderstanding something. Yeah, sure. Of course, David Lopez, I do consider the possibility. Limestone does have natural canals, and in that case, that it could be natural, but at least we know it at that point, right? So Giovanni says, by the way, I'm a physicist, and in theory, Biondi technique makes sense. It is based on real physics. The problem is the precision claimed. I understand that. There is no characterization of the noise and sensitivity. Yeah, I can see that. In fact, my problem is, as I say, I can't comment like you can on the techniques, but I can comment on the way he has interpreted it. And I still remember Corrado Malanga making fun during the conference in Italian. He was making fun of someone who was criticizing this, because this other professional was looking at this and saying it's just noise, it's nothing. And Corrado Malanga was making fun of her, saying, well, she's colorblind, what the heck does she know? And then he's showing this little square, and the square is orange. And Corrado Malanga keeps saying, look at this black square, this brown square, whatever the heck, I don't know, I'm colorblind. And I'm like, you gotta be absolutely joking. So you are colorblind. You made fun of someone else who was colorblind, and now you can't even see the freaking colors. And I should trust you. And it's not just that, it's also all the rest. But I just thought it was hilarious. Thank you, Kellen, for supporting the stream. I appreciate how you present history and controversial topics such as ancient history. Respect. Side note, my iPhone isn't showing me how to become a member. Oh yeah, I appreciate that, and thank you so much for the support. So generally speaking, if you just go to any of my videos, There is a join button right next to Metatron. If you don't see it, I maybe try it from a computer, from a laptop. And I do appreciate anyways, whether you manage to become a member or not. I do appreciate the feeling, the sentiment. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, pareidolia, we discussed this yesterday, the sort of tendency that we humans have, and it's in fact hardwired in our mind to see patterns, particularly faces, when there is nothing. This is something that happens. Didn't Zawi, you're doing it on purpose. Didn't Zawi say there was a giant bedrock stone base? Yeah, that's what they all say. So theoretically, I mean, I don't know if it's considered giant, but there is a solid bedrock, yes. So these shafts would have to go through it at that point. Thank you very much, Pax, for the support. Metatron Chris White did a brilliant debunk of ancient aliens with companion websites, actual language experts and receipts. 3-hour epic. It's on YouTube. I'll definitely check it out. Chris White, easy to remember. I think of Chris Redfield from Resident Evil and add white supremacist, and then I can remember that. Thank you. Biondi is decent exactly in his scientific explanation and understanding. The other two are yeah, that's how I see it. I don't use this term, but yeah, I mean, that's the way I see it. I'd have no problem with Filippo Biondi, and even more so now that he's been so polite and decent and respectful. But then again, it is what it is. Well, you want to practice, this is what this says, Nihongo renshu shinakereba naranai. I have to practice Japanese. That's what's written here. Yeah, sure, you should do that. Zehi, Nihongo o renshu shite kudasai. Subarashi. Anytime. If you want to know anything in Japanese, I'm happy to discuss. You're also Italian. There you go. Listen to 4-Hour Con. Oh my God, he was terrible. But for me, the worst part was the first part. Armando May, when he's like, oh yeah, the whole Giza complex and plateau, but the complex, all the structures, they date to 36,400 years ago, which makes what Robert Bovell says to look like, at this point, it's child's play, because that guy was already pushing it to 10,000 BC, but he was like, no, 36,000 years ago. And I'm like, okay, well, that's intriguing. I always like stuff like that. So I'm like, why? Because, I mean, he says a civilization did this, but we don't believe currently that there is what we would call technically a civilization 36,000 years ago. So that's intriguing. And then he's like, oh, well, because when you date it, you shouldn't just date the pyramids. You should date the entire complex. And I'm confused, because it's not like the Valley Temple dates back to 36,000 years. So what is he on about? The sand? I'm a little confused. Arigato gozaimasu. Do itashimashite. Robinson, thank you for the support. Do you know how the pyramids were excavated? Did they simply reach the base of the pyramids and stop digging? It's possible, but I mean, no, I don't know how they did it. But it's also possible that there wasn't as much of a layer, because it's at least 5,000 years ago. So the geology of it would have looked different. And then again, if the alt history people actually have this one right, and the pyramids date back to 10,000 years ago, or maybe even further, if this is proven, then who knows? I mean, it would have looked differently. That's one of the things with archaeology. It's always about strata, isn't it? Because layers after layer after layer, they do change the environment.